Okay, so this is Todd Atkins, and I'm here with Mailani, and I think I'll just let you kind of introduce yourself because you could probably say your name better than I can make it sound.
Oh, actually, you did a great job saying my name. I was like, hey, right on. You speaking better Hawaiian. What's up, everybody? My name is Mailani Makainai. I'm from the island of Oahu here in Hawaii, born and raised in Kailua and also in Kahalu'u. I'm a singer, songwriter, female vocalist of the year a couple times in Na Hoku Hanohano Awards. That's Hawaii's version of the Grammys. I'm a producer. I have a small in-home studio, but then again, so does everybody else. I mentor young aspiring artists that want to break into the entertainment industry. I work on branding and I create portfolios for aspiring artists. I'm also a Lomi Lomi practitioner and have been since I was a keiki, so since I was 7 years old. And I have some really beautiful kumu that are no longer living in this realm right now, but they're still around watching over us. And prior to COVID, I was singing and performing throughout the world, more so in the Asian market, specifically Japan. And now I have been hustling, doing things I did in music, although I miss it a lot. But yeah, I'm doing things like becoming a beekeeper, to putting some new tutorials online, to even selling life insurance. So you name it, I'm a hustler.
Now, for people that aren't familiar with you, like, how did you get into music?
So I got into music in a very natural way. And when I say natural, I mean like I grew up with it in my family. I was very lucky that both of my parents are well-established singers. They actually met in a choir that represented Hawaii during the bicentennial back in the late 70s. And so they love music. And my father also is a musician. He actually, one of his first businesses was owning and making ukuleles. He actually grew up with Chris Kamaka, and everybody knows the Kamaka dynasty of ukuleles. And that's one of his best friends, even to this day. They're both St. Louis high school graduates from Kalepohaku. And my father ended up opening his own ukulele shop, and then it turned into a cabinet shop. But growing up in that environment, like I grew up listening to my father tuning guitars and tuning ukuleles every single night. And I grew up listening to the ukulele and it just being played and sung. One of my grandfathers is one of the biggest reasons why I still play music to this day, because he loved playing music. There was not a memory of mine of him without a guitar or without an ukulele in his hands, whether we were at the beach or having Sunday dinner. He'd always be playing his instrument and just singing. He's so just happy-go-lucky. Also, another reason why he's on my second Hawaiian solo album called Aina. He's on one of my mele on that song. And yeah, I grew up with all of my cousins singing. Some cousins would dance hula if they weren't talented in singing. And the other cousins who weren't down with hula, we'd have a ukulele in our hands. And all the uncles and aunties, and especially my parents, we'd be singing Hawaiian songs around the table every single Sunday night and every single camping trip. So that's how I first really got into music.
Now, I want to ask you, you brought something up just before this question where you're talking about COVID. It seems like Hawaii is being affected kind of behind everybody else. Like most of these states have already opened up and Hawaii kind of did sort of a second shutdown. So how is it there right now?
It is a 50-50. Like as a business owner, it's hurting for every single person in Hawaii. I mean, whether you're a business owner or not, I feel like so much of us are just straight up hurting because financially it's hard to feed that income that we've been so accustomed to over the years. But yeah, Hawaii is interesting. We're also very secluded. For anything to get here, it takes not just 1 hour. So our hospitals and our medical facilities are also limited compared to everywhere else in the United States. We still have really great care here and, a number of really solid doctors. But we just don't have the number of facilities and the number of PPE equipment that other hospitals have. So I think that that's one of the reasons why Hawaii is like so, like we're on red alert right now, even though the cases are not as high and comparable to other parts of the world or even to the United States. I think it's really because we're so isolated in the Pacific Ocean that people are just like on this high red alert. On the other hand, it's nice to see our islands not be so crowded on our beaches, our trails. A lot of the oceans here have really healed. Hi'ile Kavelo from Paipai o He'ea, the fish pond in He'ea, she shared how she's seen new life take place in Kauaho'okamano, which is the Hawaiian name of Kaneohe Bay. And she's seen several turtle breedings, where turtles are mating in the ocean. And she grew up in Kahalu'u all her life, fishing, swimming, observing Kauaho'okamano. And for her to make that observation, it's pretty amazing. There's a lot more he'e or octopus in the ocean that she also notices. And she's a big he'e hunter. So just seeing new life in my backyard is really awesome. And it wouldn't have happened without this sort of shutdown. But there's still like about 2,000 people coming to Hawaii every other week.
Now, I wanted to ask you something about music. Like, obviously, you were in Keahiwai when you were pretty young. Like, when did you first get involved with that? Yeah,
so Keahiwai, we're planning to have a reunion next year. It'll be our 20th reunion of the 2001 release of Local Girls. That was our debut album. Love Keahiwai, can't wait to do more of it. Lei is actually, she's 1 year older than me, so she graduated in the class right above me, but we played basketball together. That's how we first met. And then we also played our ukuleles together. And we got our first gig at a coffee shop at UH, and we both attended the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And that's really how we kind of just started. And we, honest to God, did it just for fun. And we enjoyed singing. We enjoyed playing music. We enjoyed this life of performing. And we didn't really foresee us in a studio recording songs that we had written. We just thought we're gonna, when you're 20 and you're in college, I mean, life is fun and you are a little bit more brave to take chances on yourself. So that's what it was for us in the beginning. And luckily we hooked up with John Yamasato from Pure Heart. Amazing artist, love him. I always loved his voice. I also recorded a duet with him. We just did a cover of Tracks of My Tears. But he really was the catalyst in having us start to become brandable, buyable, believable. He really trained us. He played with us for 3 solid years. He was in the studio with us for our first 2 albums. He introduced us to our sound engineer that created that Keahiwai sound that everybody fell in love with. So there's a lot that I have to owe John Yamasato, and we're friends to this day. I interviewed him for one of my mentorship dates, and yeah, he's great. But we can't wait to do our reunion next year, and I hope that can happen next year.
Now, I have a question. Like, I first met you at TJ's house. You came there for, I think it was the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It was one of those fights, I'm sure. But the thing is, for people that are listening to this who aren't familiar with Mailani, like, I heard her voice everywhere, like, especially after that, since I knew her voice more. I heard her voice, like, everywhere I went, like, in stores, malls, whatever. So my question is, as you guys are doing that music, did you think, oh, maybe this is going to become bigger than we anticipated?
Never. I mean, you hope for things like that, but while you're in that process, and plus we were babies, I mean, 20 years old, and you don't know anything else to compare that journey to. You're just stoked to be in a studio. You're stoked that somebody is invested enough into you where they're in the studio with you and they're working on your sound and they're building the music, and they're giving you their best and they're supporting your voice in the best way that they can. Like I was just on cloud 9, and to this day I'm still on cloud 9. Anytime I get behind the mic and get to lay something down, I'm actually going to be releasing a new single coming up soon with a video. I've been working on it since the beginning of COVID to now. Because again, the industry is like, well, 2020 is canceled already. No one's going to go to a concert, at least in Hawaii, for the rest of the year, or anyone from Hawaii for the rest of the year. So I just had to put something out, and I can't wait for you to hear it, Todd. I can't wait for your listeners to hear it. I can't wait for the people of Hawaii to hear it. But yeah, to think that something's gonna break, no, I've never been that way. I always hope that something of mine will break, especially as you get on and you make another project and then another project and another project. You always hope that it's something fresh enough for the people to still rock with you, and that you're still relevant. And that's, you know, that's the journey of an artist always. Sometimes you care about being relevant, and sometimes you don't care about being relevant. Sometimes you care about what the people and what the market, what the masses think about you, and if they love you, if they don't. And sometimes I really just don't care. Like, this is what I feel, this is what I believe in, and this is what I want to write. And sometimes it works in your favor, and then it can become a hit. And sometimes it goes completely unnoticed. And I've had both experiences, and my best advice is to just run with it. You know, I mean, we're living in an age where I get to talk to you and you're all the way in Colorado, and we get to share a conversation, and you just saw me in the back of the mountains over here in Kahalu'u. And I still think that we're still in a very baby age of the internet, and more is to come.
I'm in Oklahoma, but Colorado's close enough.
Sorry, I thought I read Colorado. Oklahoma, wow.
Now, the thing I wanted to ask, though, was, you know, looking at some of these artists like Bruno Mars, Jack Johnson, some people who got popularity, obviously, from Hawaii, looking back on that music, especially, like a lot of people hearing it all over the place. And you just did your live stream with Lay, like a few months back. Did you think maybe this could have gone further than we took it? Perhaps.
Oh, you mean my career?
No, just that group.
Okay,
Keahiwai. You.
Absolutely. Totally. Like, you know, I was 22. I still remember being in, I got married very young. So my first marriage, and, you know, he's a good guy, nice guy. We still wish goodness on each other's lives, and we've both taken different paths, and I'm happy for him and he's happy for me. But I still remember being in the hallway, playing my guitar, writing songs, thinking that I had gotten married a little too young, because I would have loved to have tried to get us to LA and tried to tour a little more. Granted, Keahiwai did tour quite a bit. Here's a funny story. I was in Oregon, of all places, and I ended up at a strip bar because it was a birthday party for one of my friends. And a stripper, sorry, I have to sneeze. Excuse me.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you. A stripper had recognized me in Oregon, of all places. Excuse me. I think we were an hour out of Salem. I couldn't believe it. And she was a nice blonde girl, and she totally gave me a hug, boobs out and everything. She couldn't believe that I was this girl from Keahiwai, and I couldn't believe that anybody in Oregon like even knew my name that wasn't from Hawaii. There was a big college awareness because we played at a lot of college luau's. You know, we did UW up in Seattle, and played in Oregon and up and down California. So those college festivals really helped boosted us. And a lot of island kids that bring their music up to the States, you know, they actually help build you up out there, because they introduce music from Hawaii to people who would never know what Hawaii music would sound like. And to get new fans that way is really, really cool, because the radio stations at the time are so localized. And although we have internet, our radio stations to this day are still very localized. So I don't know if people would have heard our music without the college kids taking our music to their colleges, wherever they were. But yeah, that's kind of a crazy story. And yeah, hands down, I really do think we could have taken it further. I also got pregnant by the time I was 23, 24, and that definitely slowed my career down. But I mean, I have a beautiful daughter because of that, and I got to be a stay-home mom for a couple of years. I got to buy my own house out here in Hawaii because of Keahiwai, and like just a lot of really cool experiences. But also coming out of being a stay-home mom and perform again and continue to write and be in the studio again, that's a whole nother chapter too. I have some pretty cool stories of that too. But yeah, I do think that we could have taken it further. Maybe we can again.
Yeah. So is that when the two of you kind of did your live stream, like how many people watched that? Do you know?
Gosh, I want to say the last time I checked the numbers, which was during that time, maybe this was 3 months ago, was over 52,000 people. Maybe that's not a lot of numbers, but over 52,000 people for one night is a big deal for a Hawaii artist right now. And we didn't promote it. We didn't pay for ads. It was a very grassroots promotion where we just put it up on our social media. I put it up on Facebook and I put it up on Instagram. That's it. And within 24 hours to garner that much attention was really, really cool.
So maybe you guys are going to play some more, you think?
Not this year. We really want to save the goods for next year. We were considering about doing another one, but I think that one of the reasons why we had so many eyes and so much attention is because of the fact that we didn't overplay and, you know, like saturate ourselves and be seen too easily and too much. So that also is a bit of a strategy on our part. And plus, we don't really know what is going to be a really good plan. We just know that next year is going to be our reunion year, and we're going to give it our all.
Now, I have a question about like music industry. Like I said before, I heard your music all over the place. Like, do you get royalties when these places play your music, or how does that work?
I do still get royalties. I'm actually an ASCAP artist, so I'm signed with ASCAP, and they do get me my royalties. And there's a difference in pay compared to the early O's and the 2010s. But the royalties are not as much as it used to be back then. So I still do get my royalties every year, sometimes twice a year, sometimes quarterly, depending. But it's not as much money as before. I used to make some nice money, but now I don't know.
And then you kind of went into Hawaiian music, you know, and singing just in Hawaiian language. You know, what made you decide to kind of take a different direction musically?
Yeah. So I am Native Hawaiian, and I actually grew up listening and playing to Hawaiian music. I grew up speaking Hawaiian as well. And a lot of people don't know, but Keahiwai was actually a Hawaiian group before we started writing our own music. We played the greats from C&K to Makahasans of Ni'ihau to Ho'okena, and the list goes on of all the Hawaiian music that we would play, Gabi Pop's Pahinui, even Sunday Manoa. And when we finally had our first meeting with John and with Aaron, our producer, they did encourage us to start writing our own music. And we had already had like a few songs in our little toolbox that we had to, you know, bring out and start refining and working on them before we brought it to the studio. But we just didn't feel comfortable at the time to write in Hawaiian and to write Hawaiian music. And so that's what made us go into this island contemporary vibe. And I have no regrets. That was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And then after I've gotten to experience that, coming back to Hawaiian music was still a goal of mine. So when it was time for me to bring back my career, Keahiwai, you know, Lei was doing her own thing and I was doing my own thing, and we both supported each other. And it was, hey, balls to the wall. Let's do a push for Hawaiian music and for a part of me that's very special to me.
Now, just kind of talk about that. Like, people, I'm sure there's a lot of people probably never been to Hawaii that aren't aware that there's not a lot of Native Hawaiians, you know, still around.
Yes, I can go on and on about that.
Yeah, I know you have a lot of, you know, interesting perspectives about this, and I'd just kind of like to hear you talk about it a little bit.
Sure thing. So we are people who are Hawaiian who still live in Hawaii. We are actually the minority in our own land. And a lot of that is because cost of living has become so high. And we're not the only Native peoples in the world to experience being pushed out like this. And there's gentrification all over the world, not just only in Hawaii. But the thing that's unique about Hawaiians in Hawaii is, you know, when they want to deport citizens, where are they going to deport Hawaiians? We are actually from here. This is where we are from. And we fight so hard to live here. And you would think that people wouldn't be so intimidated or afraid of Hawaiians being successful in our own land because we are a minority here. But people are. I mean, there's so many systemic rules that keep us down and kind of keep us in our... Hi. Yes, honey. Hi, baby.
I have a garden home. I'm going to show Uncle Nick.
Okay, thank you. But there's a bit of systemic Like you see it.
This is my garden.
I love your gnome.
Yeah. Jude threw him against the house.
Oh,
And he broke him, but we tried to fix him, but he broke off the tip.
oh, you're so smart. Auntie's on a call, but I'm almost finished. Okay, baby. Thank you, honey. Oh, okay, I'll see you pretty soon. Sorry, my nephew is so cute. He's so smart. I mean, it's kind of the same old story, but then it's not, because this is where we're from, as I said earlier. There's different challenges that we have. But for me, my mana'o that I try to push is really just living by the golden rule. And when people want to come to Hawaii, I hope that they do at least a little bit of history, like just read a historical reference that was actually written by a Hawaiian person. And you will learn so much more and come to Hawaii with a perspective that's prepared, and a perspective that's humble, and a perspective that's open, and a perspective that's also going to receive what you're after. Because people can go anywhere for beautiful beaches. You can go to Vietnam, you can go to Mexico, you can go to Spain, for people who are on the East Coast. You can go to so many different places. You can go down to Florida. But people come to Hawaii, why? They can pay so much less just going down to Acapulco or Cancun. They come to Hawaii because of the aloha spirit, and they come to Hawaii because there's also a closeness here. Yes, we have our crime. Yeah, we have our drug issues. Yeah, we have our caste system, which is the gap is widening, and you can see it when you come here. But there's also the aloha spirit that continues to remain strong within our people. And so I think that that's one of the aspects as to why people want to come to Hawaii. People enjoy hula, they enjoy the music, and there's no other place in the world that has music like this. And so I just feel like if people would just do a little bit of due diligence before they come to Hawaii and see this place as more than just a vacation destination, then they would understand what it is that we've been fighting for. And all we've been fighting for all along is the truth, and why some of us are angry, and why we have been just kind of silenced over a century. And that silence needs to end. And so it's not just me as a Hawaiian sharing and speaking, it's many of us. And the younger generation, especially the Hawaiian kids on TikTok, they are lit. They are totally like hashtag let Hawaii happen, hashtag Hawaii. I mean, you can see so many different TikToks, and it sums a lot of our generational trauma and historical references that we talk about and share, and what you see in the news. They share so much of that in a humorous way in a matter of like 10, 20 seconds. So there's so many different, there's so much access that people have to the truth. And if people are a reader, you can read books like Broken Trust. You can read books like Dismembering Lahui, written by John Osorio. You can read books like From a Native Daughter by Hananike Trask. There's so much ike out there for you. Some people want to know, and then some people don't care. And for the people who don't care, well, that's why they don't get to receive what Hawaii is truly all about, and missed opportunity for them. But then again, for us, we're like, that's okay, you can leave. You're a guest here. So if you don't like this place, you can't rock with this place. See ya.
Now, Mailani's giving you all like a bunch of free Hawaiian language lessons here. Like, Ike, I didn't even hear that before. Is that book? Is that what that was?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Ike in Hawaiian means knowledge. Ike also means to know, and Ike also means to see.
See, that's pretty bad. I was there 14 years and didn't know that. I know all the other things you've been saying, but maybe you'd have to, when you say something, maybe you'd let people know, because some of these people probably have no idea what you're talking about that are listening to this. But yeah, that's free. She's giving you the stuff free, so maybe next time. But now let's kind of talk about Mauna Kea, because I was talking to Michael Tsai, he's the journalist out there, and he kind of said that the protests maybe died down a little bit because of the COVID thing. Mm-hmm. I was kind of interested to hear your thoughts on it, because I don't recall. I'm sure you spoke about it, but maybe I just didn't catch it. But I'd like to hear you explain it for me. I mean, I understand that there's a lot of stuff being built up there satellite-wise, and tons of satellites up there already. Or I mean, not satellites, but telescopes.
Yeah,
Satellites.
for sure.
What am I talking about? So yeah, you can go ahead and talk about it.
So I'm a Hawaiian that loves astronomy. I actually took a class entitled Ho'okele, and it was about sailing, and you have to learn astronomy in that class, and you have to learn both the European names and the Hawaiian names of the constellations and the Mailani, and like know your north and south and know how to find your north and south. A really powerful class. And so I believe that astronomy is important. I'm also Hawaiian that's against TMT. And it's not because a lot of Hawaiians are against TMT, but if you were to follow the story of TMT from its early inception from 10 years ago to 20 years ago, when they were talking about building another telescope and another telescope, another telescope, I thought it was ludicrous then. And I think back in 2014 and 2015, they started having opening ceremonies that were hidden from the public to make it, to have this haku or a kahu come in and do a Hawaiian blessing on Mauna Kea right before they desecrate Mauna Kea for this stupid telescope. And you don't see, the only Hawaiian that you really see there is the kahu who's doing these Hawaiian rites. And you see all of the investors, none of them are Hawaiian. None of them are American. Maybe you have one or two, but you see a lot of outside, foreign, wealthy investors coming to this thing. And, that doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well with a lot of us. Luckily, there was a man named Lanakila Manguel who was there to stop this blessing and stop the protocols from taking place. And you can find it on YouTube. I'll try to find you the link and I'll send it to you, but it's pretty powerful. And so that to what took place a year and a half ago with the first arrests, we've been marching, we've been doing our civic disobedience, protesting, protecting. We've been voicing our mana'o on this project for a very long time, and no one wants to listen to us. The sad thing is, the natives, and I say the natives of the world, meaning it's not just Hawaiians, but the Native Americans, the Eskimos, the Mexicans, any natives that you can think of, the Aboriginals of Australia, these are the people who know the land better than any scientist now that has all this ike, right? He has all these PhDs. It's the native peoples who actually know the land even better than anyone who has some PhD. And yet they are so dismissed. We are so dismissed. And that's why we have to fight so hard for the land, because we know what's going to happen if we let another project like this come and take over our land. It is going to be desecration. They have plans to build this over the main aquifer that feeds Hilo on the Hamakua coastline. I can go on and on and on. They've also broken laws. They've also done illegal, evil, to even get this to the point that they've gotten it. Right now, people are against wearing masks in Hawaii. They want Hawaii to open up. That's their mana'o, and that's fine. They protest. You don't see anybody getting arrested. But you see Hawaiians standing up for Mauna Kea, which is one of our many sacred mountains throughout our pai'aina, and we're getting arrested left and right. So, that's just a small smidget of the story. The beautiful thing about Mauna Kea is people who come with an open heart, come ready to receive, and also come at striving to being their best self. Those are the people that are welcome anytime on Mauna Kea and welcome in front of the council. The people who are going to smoke, drink, do drugs, people who are going to not serve, people who are there with the intention to do evil or to do heva or to desecrate Mauna Kea, they're not allowed there. So it's really an amazing experience. I would say for anyone who is interested or curious about what is Mauna Kea, what's the big deal about Mauna Kea, I would say, go and take a visit there. Visit. Go and take a visit there. But be ready to serve. Be ready to humble yourself. Keep your mouth closed. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. be very, 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 very respectful, and place yourself in the highest form that you ever could when you're there, and any other sacred place anywhere else in the world.
Now, I don't see it as much now. So what are they doing now? Are they trying to sneak up there and do whatever it is they're going to do, or the government, I mean, or these investors, are they trying to?
That's a really good question. I haven't heard too much on the scene, but we do have a lot of Kanaka Rangers that are up there that are observing and safekeeping the land. So if something were to go on, we would hear and we would know about it.
So are there still people over there right now kind of continuing the protest? Because I'm just not seeing it. So I don't know if it's not being covered or.
Yeah, there's still families there that go up to continue their vigil and to continue their oversight on the land. Not as many, but they're still up there.
So you think once this COVID passes, it'll probably kind of bust up again as far as the numbers of people?
We'll see. I mean, Hawaii is in economic turmoil as it is. I don't know. I don't even know. We'll see. I don't have an answer. I wish I had a better answer for you.
So you're talking about the economic turmoil. I mean, I'm enjoying getting your perspective on some of these things, and I think it's important. I've always kind of said Mailani should run for office, but she's like, no, I'm not gonna. But I think it's good for people to hear this, especially for someone like you, and maybe talk about some of the economic turmoil for people that aren't familiar with it. Sure.
Well, we have this rail project, right, that got stuffed down our throats, and now during COVID, there, traffic numbers, they still exist, but not as much because people are working from home. There's high corruption in our government here, hands down. Economics. Well, Hawaii has been relying on tourism for far too long. And now that the tourist industry is busted, so many of us are out of jobs. And yet we have the best soil in the world to grow crops, agriculture, and to really invest in that sector of economics. And we're starting to see a little bit more interest go that way. Also, the military industrial complex is another thing that Hawaii relies on heavily. I'm sure you remember being here, all these military bases that we had around each island. It's like so many. And I do understand why. I mean, yeah, we can talk about World War II, Japan, December 7th, 1941. That's one thing. I mean, we are left out pretty in the open here. But the military, I gotta say, I have such a, it's hard to talk about because my grandfather was in the Air Force and he met my grandmother because of the fact that he flew here, was stationed here for a little bit. I wouldn't have been here without that. He's actually from Minnesota. He's half Norwegian and Finnish. So I also have some white blood in me too. I just don't look white. But anyhow, the military industrial complex, it's like pros and cons to their being here. And the lands that they're on, and especially military families, and again, I say this, Hawaiians, we are the minority. Those lands are crown lands, meaning during the Great Mahele of 1848, King Kamehameha III Kauikeaoli, when he had created a new constitution and he started to split the government up, he made sure to take a portion of his lands and leave it for the crown lands and leave it for Hawaiians. Every single military base, the airport, UH Manoa, they're all on crown lands. And how do Hawaiians get to benefit from these crown lands? We don't really, not really. I mean, we could be living at Hickam Air Force Base or out in Kaneohe Marine Base on Mokapu. That's sacred land, actually. That's land of King Kamehameha I, land of Keaua. And Hawaiians, we can't, there's no like sectioned off aina for us to live on these lands that we actually have rights to, royal rights to. So, I mean, I can go on and on and on, but economically, when you think of what's been powering Hawaii's economics, it's been tourism and the military industrial complex. And now without tourism, we're busted. And so hopefully we can start to find new business in agriculture, new business in the things that we've been doing where we're not so heavily reliant upon tourism. And then over 80% of our food, over 80% of our goods, they're all imported. So that's another thing that, like, we have the best land here. We should not have to rely on outside food, but we do heavily. There's the Jones Act, and I can go on and on, but the Jones Act needs to be done away with, I think. But yeah, that's gonna have to be another story.
Now let's kind of get back to the music. I know we've been talking about some heavy stuff, but you know, like I know you performed a lot in Waikiki, and that's kind of where Bruno Mars used to perform Magic of Polynesia. You'll talk about your experience of performing in Waikiki kind of versus maybe doing some of your shows in Manoa or elsewhere on the island.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see, Bruno Mars. So I remember Bruno Mars when he was about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I remember he was the little baby Elvis, and he was so cute. He performed on the KSSK morning show, and we were doing Keahiwai stuff. And to see his journey is just mind blowing. Like, wow. None of us, all of Hawaii, no one even expected anyone from Hawaii to have the kind of stardom that he has. And I'm so proud of him. I'm so happy that, you know, because he represents and he loves Hawaii hard. And it's nice to see that the biggest entertainer in show business comes from this little island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Entertainment in Waikiki, you know, most of it has been, again, garnered to the tourists. So you see a lot of hula, you see a lot of Hawaiian music. But Hawaii actually is very talented. Like, the talent here is pretty mean. We have some of the greatest reggae artists, from The Green to Maoli to J Boog, and I mean, I can go on and on. Fiji, Kapena. And so reggae is beloved here in Hawaii. And we have, you know, some jazz minds, some jazz singers. We've got a lot of gospel and religious. We have Slaki, Kiho'alu. People who can think of bluegrass. Well, our Hawaiian version of that is Kiho'alu or Slaki. I mean, I can go on and on, but we do have great talent here in Hawaii. And I am now maturing in my life, happy to kind of be the person who is mentoring that next generation forward. Because, you know, seeing the greats like Henry Kapono and how he pivots here and there, and he's transformed as an artist. He still does his Sundays at Duke's, but he also feeds the younger generation, and he's a mentor himself. And I just love seeing that transition for artists, and I'm starting to do things like that for the next generation here.
Now, as we're kind of winding down this interview, maybe you could talk a little bit about your mentoring and maybe just anything else you wanted to leave the interview on, kind of, that you want people to know about.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you. I enjoy mentoring the next generation of Hawaii's biggest stars. I mean, if the next Bruno Mars came out of my school, that would be amazing. And I've taken our kids out to LA. I've brought people from LA into Hawaii. I've done mentorships and held weekend classes and seminars on the island of Maui, on the island of Hawaii. And I'm looking forward to serving more of our community. I haven't yet been able to go out to Kauai yet or Molokai, but you know, hopefully as things grow again in Hawaii, maybe I can start doing that next year. Currently, I have a handful of students that I do one-on-ones with, and I do have an online class for students who are interested in breaking into the industry. But in the meantime, with the COVID shutdown, I haven't gotten to see my students, and I do hope that we open up again next week, because we're on that 2-week shutdown again right now.
So maybe you'll be a producer?
Yeah, I am actually a producer. One of my students recorded his single and his EP. His name is Koa Osterman. Go check him out. He's doing amazing things. I mean, this boy, within 3 years, he went from just taking a few voice lessons to recording his first single, his first EP. He went from playing 2 times a month to playing 3 times a week, and making an income and making a living being a full-fledged musician. And yeah, he had to hustle. And, you know, I remember him telling me sometimes, oh yeah, sometimes I just get so tired. And I'm like, bruh, this is what you wanted. can't get tired. You know, you get more for go, you get more for do. So don't even whisper, don't even think about that word.
Now, for people that aren't familiar with you, where could they find some of the things that you're doing or follow you, things like that?
Yeah, well, I do a lot on Instagram. I just feel comfortable with that platform. Sometimes I do my talk stories and I share a lot in my stories. So just check me out at Mailani Official on Instagram. I am on Facebook, but I'm not like a huge Facebook user. I don't know. I've been trying to think of what I can do on TikTok. I am on TikTok. I've done a few like trail walking videos of showing like the landscape and what's beautiful here. But I don't know. I need to learn how to use that. You can also check out my YouTube page, Mailani Music or Mailani Makainai, and you'll find some of my videos up there.
Yeah, I don't know anything about TikTok. I've never even been on it. I mean, I know that the guy Doug that I talked to, the HPD officer, a few shows back, he does some stuff on there, but I'm not familiar with how it works or anything. Well, you know, I want to take time to say thank you for taking time to talk to me, and you know, I appreciate your insights, and you know, hopefully we can catch up sometime, maybe when you get back into doing some more music or something.
Absolutely. I'll reach out to you once I let you know when my song's going to drop. I'd be happy to be on your show again. Thank you so much for having me, and best of luck to you. I'm glad that you're in Oklahoma. I hope you come back home again too.
Yeah, I hope to come by again sometime for sure.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, take care and aloha, and good luck to you. Hope your new single kicks it out really good.
I can't wait for you to hear it. Thank you so much, Todd. You guys take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Aloha. Bye.